The emergency destruct system is now activated. The ship will detonate in T-minus 10 minutes. The option to override automatic detonation expires in T-minus 5 minutes.
The situation in Iraq remains very volatile.
Yemen was plunged into darkness today when Al-Qaeda operatives attacked the country's power grid.
A massive effort by the National Security Agency to track cell phone calls and monitor email and internet traffic of virtually everyone.
We've seen each successive president increasingly rule by executive order. Will Congress fight this dictatorship of secret government? Of course they will.
Your class has an incredible window of opportunity. Lead in shaping a new world order.
There also exists an extraordinary opportunity to form for the first time in history a truly global society.
These global corporations, these global banks will be able to create booms for profit, depressions for profit, even wars for profit.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Large populations are difficult to control. That's why the future the globalists have planned will contain us, will constrain us, will eliminate us.
Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. Order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
We have a fog that has descended on our entire nation, the smokescreen of national security, used by government at every level to keep everything they do secret.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order when we are successful, and we will be. We have a real chance at this new world order.
Their strength is in secrecy, but our strength is to shed light on what they do in the dark and to stand united against it.
If you are receiving this message, then you've been recruited. Welcome to the fight, Patriot.
Gray State is less a movie than it is a warning. We do not live in a dictatorship, but we do live in a police state. What we're going to see is the unveiling of this gray state foisted upon America. The thing that you have to begin to understand about conspiracy theory is that at some point, it's no longer theory. You talk about peak oil, you talk about FEMA camps, you talk about global warming, you talk about the UN, you talk about the NWO. They're prepping for megadeath. Last night's declaration of martial law. Once the red carpet gets rolled out for this New World Order program, everything is free game. The bastard of it all is that you've heard of everything. It's a game of numbers, and we're losing.
The oligarchy and these corporate powers, the corporatocracy could overtake our civilization, our society, and in turn our citizens and take away all of our civil liberties and human rights.
If you look around, this reminds me of Iraq. We've got the gradual decline of freedom and liberty. That's the gray state.
What the fuck is this wall and how does it work?
So, the wall is just a writing tool. The wall is something that every writer probably does. I don't know how extensive they get. Maybe they're better at synthesizing story than I am. So, I mean, if you want to look at it physically, you have the story here, beginning to end, also up, or top to bottom. So in constructing a story, you'll find out that it works on several levels. There's mythological storytelling, so it's the hero's journey as described by Joseph Campbell.
Well, this whole thing has sort of taken on a mind of its own. We're still pretty new to this whole gig, but it is developing. This project has developed momentum that I can't even describe. It has run away from us.
There are certain points in every story that you can recognize that this is what happens to the character at this point in the story. For example, after Act 2 begins, eventually the midpoint is created, which is the metaphorical inmost cave. So the hero enters the labyrinth to fight the Minotaur, and he emerges with the secret, but the fight isn't over. And that applies to other stories, like the character doesn't have the right idea yet, and is still kind of struggling, but he achieves progress through proactivity and all these things. And then eventually there's the supreme ordeal, which is like the ultimate fight to death.
I've seen people shot in the head. I've seen people killed. I've seen people blown up. I've been in combat. I've shot people. I know how combat goes. You die like animals. We die like animals. You bleed out, and then you leave a corpse that looks surprised. And that's just how it is. And I witnessed directly how the mentality of the American soldier is being used, and directly how the mentality of the American public is being used. I mean, when you follow a flag, you're going to be manipulated. It's not like following a person or following an idea. You're following a country, and whatever that country says to follow, you're going to do. It is morally reprehensible what we're doing in the Middle East. And if you don't fucking understand that yet, you need to open your eyes, because you are a slave for the most insidious global agenda mankind has ever known, and you are directly responsible for that. At some point, you've got to realize that you're just a dog jumping through hoops for the government.
Oh, very nice.
Who wants to watch?
We all do.
We see a giant arms race against the American people, but not just here in the United States, worldwide. We see the globalists building a giant police state control grid and calling themselves technocrats. A technocrat is a group of dictators who use technology to control people. We are already beginning to fall to the gray state.
We will not bow! We will not bow!
This fight is for the future of humanity, and we are in the fight. And it's now time for humanity to restore the Republic and restore freedom and the Bill of Rights and Constitution. It's just that simple. We don't need you to try to educate us on threats.
Your Congress commissioned a study that found that our nation is sustained by a vulnerable and woefully outdated power grid. Your commission found that our enemies, and yes, even we, have developed weapons that are designed to bring down this grid. Your peers determined that immediately after the detonation of one of these weapons, we would lose all sources of power. Electricity would cease to exist. The internet would go down, and along with that, the banking system.
All clear. Search the room.
Just who made you the expert on this?
You don't have to be an expert to understand this. You just have to read your own damn findings. According to your report, 90% of the American population will die in the first 12 months.
We're done. There are pressing matters that need to be addressed.
I want you to pass the SHIELD Act, which will harden the grid in our country. I came here to call you to action.
you got?
Some small caliber weapons and a rabbit gun.
Let's bag them up.
We don't have time for this.
You had time to pass the National Defense Authorization Act to give the president the power to declare martial law for any reason, to give him the power to arrest any American by simply accusing them of terrorism, imprisoning them indefinitely without charges and no legal counsel.
This was just a funding bill. You have your facts sorely misplaced.
What's wrong with you?
This doesn't look like some Al-Qaeda hideout. It looks more like my apartment than some mud hut in Fallujah.
Think too much, eh?
Hearing is over. Who do you think you are coming in to this committee and making a mockery of our elected leaders, Mr. Gray?
I'm an American citizen who's fed up with an out-of-control dictatorial government.
Don't think, Mr. Gray, that we don't know what you're up to. Stockpiling food, weapons, fuel. The National Defense Authorization Act is there to stop domestic terrorist threats in this country. And people like you.
I am an American. I am a patriot. You, sir, are nothing but a traitor.
I've never seen anything like that in my life. That man's a threat to this country.
That little rant will be all over the news tonight.
This plays into our hands. The American news media has our narrative. And in that narrative, Charlie Gray is perfectly playing the role of right-wing extremist. The stigma of that label will stop up the ears of the American public faster than any propaganda we could fashion.
What if even a small percentage of the population were to awaken?
By that time, it'll be too late. Let's just get word out through the proper channels to the American brass who understand the mission. It seems our testing of certain units has gone well. We'll bring up a few of the Russians and the Chinese and integrate them. That will be the perfect litmus test.
A INSCREVA foi fundada sob a crença de que não se poderia confiar só em sua própria liberdade. O que não havíamos percebido era que se tentássemos tirar essa liberdade, eles resistiriam. A guerra nos ensinou isso. A humanidade precisava entregar sua liberdade espontaneamente. Depois da guerra, a Chile foi fundada e eu fui recrutado. A nova Hydra cresceu, lindo parasita dentro da Chile. Há 70 anos, a Hydra secretamente alimenta crises, se beneficia de guerras, e quando a história não coopera, a história é mudada.
Isso é impossível, acho tudo impedido.
Acidentes acontecem. A Hydra criou um mundo tão caótico que a humanidade está pronta para sacrificar a própria liberdade em troca de segurança. Quando o processo de purificação for completado, a nova ordem mundial da Hydra surgirá.